Commander Zethkar sat in his command chair and stared at the bright screen in front of him. His 4 yellow eyes moved back and forth as he read the same data over and over again. Something was very wrong with the numbers that appeared on his display. The automated probe had just come back from a small solar system at the edge of the galaxy. The system had a yellow star that the locals called Sol. The probe had scanned all the planets in that system and sent back detailed reports about each one. Most of the planets were normal. Gas giants with many moons, rocky worlds with no life, ice balls spinning in the dark. But the third planet from the star was different, very different. The probe had given it 2 classifications at the same time. This had never happened before. In all of galactic history, Zethkar clicked his mandibles together nervously. He was the head of the Galactic Cartographic Institute. His job was to map every planet, moon, and asteroid in the galaxy. He had been doing this work for 40 standard years. In all that time, he had never seen a planet get 2 classifications. Planets got 1 classification, always. A world was either safe or dangerous. It was either inhabited or empty. It was either a natural planet or an artificial construct. Never both, but this planet called Earth had somehow received both Class 115 Deathworld status and Dangerous Ship designation. These 2 classifications should not be possible at the same time. A Deathworld was a natural planet so hostile that no intelligent life could survive on its surface. A dangerous ship was an artificial construct built by advanced civilizations as a weapon of war. How could something be both natural and artificial? How could it be both uninhabitable and inhabited? The probe's data made no sense to Zethkar. According to the sensors, the planet's surface was covered in violent weather systems that could destroy cities. The gravity was so strong it would crush most galactic species. The atmosphere contained poisonous gases that would kill visitors in minutes. The planet was bombarded by deadly radiation from its star. Massive storms raged across its surface with winds that could tear apart spacecraft. The temperature swings were extreme enough to freeze or boil most known life forms, but the same probe also detected something else. The planet showed clear signs of massive propulsion systems. Not just small engines for minor course corrections. The readings indicated planetary-scale thrust capabilities that could move entire worlds through space. The probe had also found evidence of sophisticated defensive arrays positioned around the planet. Energy signatures suggested weapon systems powerful enough to destroy fleets of warships. Most alarming of all, the planet appeared to have some kind of massive weapon system built into its very structure. Zethkar rubbed his forehead with one of his 6 hands. The data suggested that someone had taken a Deathworld and turned it into the most dangerous weapon in galactic history. But who could do such a thing? What species had the technology to weaponize an entire planet? And why would they choose to build their superweapon on a world so hostile that even the builders should not be able to survive on its surface? The probe had also detected signs of intelligent life on the planet's surface, not just a few scattered survivors hiding in protective domes. The energy signatures suggested a thriving civilization with billions of inhabitants. These beings were apparently living and working on a world that should kill them just by existing. Either they had incredible protective technology or they were the most resilient species ever discovered. Zethkar called up the classification guidelines on his secondary screen. Class 115 Deathworld was the highest danger rating in the galactic system. Only 12 planets in the entire galaxy had ever received this classification. Most of them were volcanic hellscapes or frozen ice worlds with toxic atmospheres. A few were tidally locked planets with one side burning and the other freezing. All of them were considered completely uninhabitable by any known form of life. The dangerous ship classification was reserved for artificial constructs that posed a significant military threat. Usually this meant large battleships or orbital weapons platforms. Sometimes it was applied to hollowed-out asteroids that had been converted into mobile fortresses. In rare cases, small moons had been turned into weapons and received this designation. But never before had an entire planet been classified as a dangerous ship, The computer systems at the Galactic Cartographic Institute were designed to prevent classification errors. Multiple redundant systems checked and double-checked every piece of data. The probability of a false reading was less than 1 in a trillion. But the probability of a planet receiving two mutually exclusive classifications was supposed to be 0. Zethkar ran the data through the verification systems 3 more times. Each time the results were the same. The planet called Earth was definitely a Class 115 Deathworld. The hostile environment readings were clear and undeniable. But it was also definitely a dangerous ship. The propulsion and weapon signatures were too strong to ignore. The commander leaned back in his chair and considered his options. He could report the error to his superiors and request a new probe mission. But that would take months to organize and years to complete. He could classify the planet as one or the other and ignore the conflicting data. But that would violate every protocol in the Cartographic Institute's regulations. Or he could report exactly what the probe had found and let someone else figure out what it meant. Zethkar had not gotten to be commander by avoiding difficult decisions. He began typing his report to the Galactic Council. The Council met once every standard month to review new discoveries and make policy decisions. They had representatives from all 47 member species. They would need to know about this immediately. The report took him 3 hours to write. He included all the raw data from the probe. He attached detailed analysis charts showing the atmospheric composition, gravity readings, temperature variations, and radiation levels that justified the Deathworld classification. He also included the energy signatures, propulsion readings, and weapons scans that supported the dangerous ship designation. When he finished the report, Zethkar read it one more time. It sounded insane. A planet that was both uninhabitable and inhabited. A world that was both natural and artificial. A place that was both a death world and a warship. But the data was solid. The probe's sensors were the most advanced in the galaxy. The readings were accurate. He attached his personal authorization codes to the report and transmitted it to the Galactic Council headquarters. The message would reach the council chamber in 6 hours. By tomorrow, every government in the galaxy would know about the impossible planet in the Sol system. Zethkar wondered what the council would decide to do. Some species would probably want to send a military fleet to investigate the potential threat. Others would demand that the system be quarantined to prevent whatever was on that planet from spreading to other worlds. The scientists would want to study this unique phenomenon. The military leaders would want to determine if the planet posed a danger to galactic security. The commander stood up from his chair and walked to the large viewing window in his office. Outside, he could see the busy traffic of ships coming and going from the Institute's headquarters. Cargo vessels bringing in data from survey missions. Passenger ships carrying cartographers to their next assignments. Military escorts protecting valuable information. All of them going about their normal routines, unaware that everything might be about to change. In all his years of mapping the galaxy, Zethkar had discovered many strange things. Planets made entirely of crystal that sang in harmonic frequencies. Gas giants with floating cities built by extinct civilizations. Asteroid fields that moved in perfect geometric patterns. But he had never found anything that challenged the basic understanding of how the universe worked. The planet Earth was different. It was an anomaly that should not exist according to everything galactic science knew about planetary formation and stellar engineering. Either the probe had malfunctioned in ways that fooled every safety system, or there was something in the Sol system that no one in the galaxy was prepared to understand. Zethkar returned to his desk and began reviewing the probe's navigation logs. The small automated vessel had followed standard protocols throughout its mission. It had jumped to the Sol system, conducted detailed scans of each planet, and returned to report its findings. Nothing in the mission log suggested any kind of equipment failure or external interference. The probe had spent 3 standard days in the Sol system. Most of that time had been used to scan the gas giants and their many moons. The third planet had only been examined for 6 hours. But 6 Hours was more than enough time for the probe's advanced sensors to gather detailed information about any world. The readings showed that the planet was approximately 12,000 kilometers in diameter. It had one large natural satellite that the locals called Moon. The planet rotated once every 24 local hours and completed one orbit around its star every 365 local days. So far, everything was completely normal for a terrestrial planet in the habitable zone of a G-type star. But then the readings became strange. The planet's surface was 70% covered by liquid water. Liquid water was not unusual, but the amount was extreme. Most habitable worlds had small seas or lakes. This planet had vast oceans that covered most of its surface. The remaining 30% was divided between 7 large landmasses and thousands of smaller islands. The atmospheric composition was even more unusual. The air was 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and 1% other gases. This was a highly reactive and dangerous mixture. Pure oxygen was used as rocket fuel by most spacefaring species. Having that much oxygen in a planetary atmosphere created constant fire hazards and accelerated corrosion of metal structures. The gravity reading was 9.8 meters per second squared. This was nearly twice the galactic standard for habitable worlds. Most species would struggle to walk upright under such crushing force. Extended exposure to that level of gravity would cause bone density loss, muscle atrophy, and cardiovascular problems for visitors from normal worlds. The temperature readings showed wild variations across the planet's surface. Some areas reached over 50 degrees while others dropped below -40 degrees. The seasonal changes were even more extreme, with some regions experiencing temperature swings of over 60 degrees between different times of the year. Most life forms required stable temperatures to survive. But the most disturbing readings came from the planet's weather systems. The probe had detected massive storm formations with wind speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. These storms generated electrical discharges powerful enough to damage unshielded electronics. Some storm systems were large enough to cover areas the size of small moons. The probe had observed lightning strikes that carried more electrical energy than the power plants on most civilized worlds. Yet despite all these hostile conditions, the probe had clearly detected signs of a thriving technological civilization. Energy signatures suggested a global population in the billions. Radio transmissions indicated a complex communication network spanning the entire planet. Infrared scans showed cities with millions of inhabitants and transportation networks connecting every continent. Somehow, the beings living on this Deathworld had not only survived, but prospered. They had built a civilization that spanned their entire planet. They were using electromagnetic radiation for communication, which suggested they understood advanced physics. They had constructed massive urban centers, which meant they had solved the engineering challenges of building structures that could withstand their world's extreme weather. And according to the probe's readings, they had also built weapons and propulsion systems on a scale that defied belief. The energy signatures suggested technology that could move their entire world through space, or defend it against any conceivable attack. These beings had turned their Deathworld into the ultimate fortress. Zethkar shook his head in amazement. Whatever species lived on the planet Earth, they were unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. They had evolved on a world that should have killed them, and they had turned that world into the most dangerous weapon ever created. The Galactic Council would need to decide very carefully how to handle this discovery. Fleet Admiral Vextana stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of receiving Commander Zethkar's impossible report. Representatives from all 47 member species filled the Great Chamber. Even the mysterious Void Dwellers had sent a delegation, their dark forms hovering in specially prepared containment fields. The Admiral's 3 hearts beat rapidly as she prepared to address the Council. In her 200 years of military service, she had never faced a threat like the one described in the Cartographic Institute's report. A planet-sized weapon controlled by unknown beings who had somehow survived on the most hostile world ever discovered. The implications were terrifying. Chancellor Morduck of the Council called for silence with a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber. The Chancellor was a granite, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His rock-like body stood 4 meters tall, and his voice could shake buildings when he was upset. Today, he was very upset. "Fellow beings," Chancellor Morduck began, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "We face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. A world exists in the Sol system that defies our understanding of physics, biology, and engineering. Admiral Vextana will present the military assessment of this threat." Admiral Vextana activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional image of the Sol system appeared, with each planet clearly marked. She pointed to the third planet with one of her 4 arms. "This is the world designated as Earth," she said. "Our long-range probes confirm that it is both a Class 115 Deathworld and what appears to be the largest weapons platform ever constructed. The beings who built this fortress have achieved something we believed impossible." Delegate Zixandra of the Ethereal Collective raised one of her translucent appendages. "Admiral, surely there must be some error in the classification. No species could survive on a Class 115 Deathworld, much less build advanced technology there." The Admiral touched a control, and the display zoomed in on Earth. The planet rotated slowly, showing continents covered in lights that indicated massive population centers. "The evidence is undeniable. Observe the energy signatures from the night side of the planet. These lights represent cities containing millions of inhabitants. The electromagnetic emissions suggest a global communication network more sophisticated than anything we use." A collective gasp rose from the assembled delegates. The crystalline representative, Ambassador Shardale, spoke in harmonics that made the chamber ring like a bell. "If these beings can thrive on such a hostile world, what does that suggest about their capabilities? What kind of species evolves under such extreme conditions?" Admiral Vextana changed the display to show atmospheric readings. "The planet's air contains 21% oxygen. This is an extremely dangerous concentration. Most of our species require breathing apparatus in oxygen levels above 5%. These beings not only survive in this environment, they have built a civilization that spans their entire world." She continued with the gravity readings. "The gravitational force on this planet is nearly double the galactic standard. Extended exposure to such forces would cripple most of our species. Yet the inhabitants appear to function normally under these crushing conditions." The display shifted to show weather patterns. Massive storm systems swirled across the planet's surface, some larger than entire moons. Lightning flickered continuously through towering cloud formations that reached into the upper atmosphere. "The weather systems on this world generate more destructive force than most military weapons," the Admiral explained. "Storms with wind speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour regularly sweep across populated areas. Electrical discharges from these storms carry enough energy to power our largest cities. The temperature variations would kill most galactic species within hours." Delegate Harak of the Warbear clan stood up, his massive form towering over nearby representatives. "Admiral, you speak of environmental hazards. What about the military threat? Your report mentioned planetary-scale weapons." Admiral Vextana nodded grimly and changed the display once more. Energy readings appeared as colored overlays on the planet's surface. The probe detected massive power signatures that can only be explained as propulsion or weapon systems. The energy output suggests technology capable of moving the entire planet through space. She pointed to the planet's magnetic field readings. "This defensive barrier extends far beyond the planet's atmosphere. It appears designed to deflect incoming projectiles and energy weapons. The field strength is powerful enough to disrupt the electronics of approaching ships." The Admiral highlighted the planet's single moon. "Even their natural satellite appears to be part of their defensive strategy." Its orbital position creates gravitational effects that could be used to slingshot projectiles at enormous velocities. If weaponized, this moon could launch attacks against targets anywhere in their local star system. Representative Clicktel of the Hive Mind buzzed anxiously. Admiral, what is your assessment of the threat level these beings pose to Galactic security? Admiral Vextana's expression grew serious. Based on the data we have collected, I must classify the inhabitants of Earth as a Class Alpha military threat. They have turned their entire world into a fortress that could potentially threaten any target in the galaxy. Their survival on such a hostile planet suggests they possess physical and technological capabilities far beyond our current understanding. The chamber erupted in worried chatter as delegates discussed this assessment with their advisors. Chancellor Morduck called for order again. What do you recommend, Admiral? The Chancellor asked. I propose we assemble the largest reconnaissance fleet in galactic history, Admiral Vextana replied. We need to gather more detailed information about these beings and their capabilities. But we must approach with extreme caution. If they view our investigation as hostile, the consequences could be catastrophic. Delegate Whisper of the Cloud Dancers floated forward. Perhaps we should consider peaceful contact. Not all advanced species are aggressive. These beings may be willing to communicate. Admiral Vextana shook her head. Delegate, with respect, any species that could survive and thrive on such a death world must be incredibly aggressive and adaptable. They have likely evolved to view everything as a potential threat. Approaching them carelessly could trigger a response we are not prepared to handle. She gestured to the holographic display. Consider what we know about their world. They live in an environment that constantly tries to kill them. Their weather systems are more destructive than our weapons. Their gravity would crush most of us. Their atmosphere would poison us. Yet they have not only survived, they have built a thriving civilization. The Admiral paused for effect before continuing. What kind of mentality develops under such conditions? These beings must be incredibly tough, resourceful, and aggressive just to survive each day. They have probably evolved to see their hostile environment as normal. To them, the rest of the galaxy might seem weak and vulnerable. Ambassador Trillion of the Peaceful Federation raised a concern. Admiral, you assume they are hostile based solely on their environment. Perhaps their harsh world has taught them the value of cooperation and peace. Surviving such conditions might require working together rather than fighting. Perhaps, Admiral Vextana conceded. But we cannot take that risk. If we are wrong about their peaceful nature, the entire galaxy could pay the price. We must assume they are dangerous until proven otherwise. Chancellor Morduck called for a vote on the Admiral's recommendation. The motion to assemble a reconnaissance fleet passed by an overwhelming majority. Only the Peaceful Federation and 3 other species voted against the measure. Over the following weeks, the largest military fleet in galactic history began assembling. At the edge of civilized space, 12 species contributed their most advanced ships. The Granite provided massive dreadnoughts with armor plating that could withstand asteroid impacts. The Ethereal Collective sent ships equipped with phase shifting, technology that could become intangible. The Warbear clans contributed heavy cruisers armed with quantum torpedoes. Each species also sent their best scientists and first contact specialists. If these Earth beings proved to be peaceful, the fleet would be prepared for diplomatic contact. If they proved hostile, the combined firepower of 12 civilizations would be ready to defend the galaxy. The fleet that emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system was impressive even by galactic standards. 300 ships of various sizes and capabilities spread out in a defensive formation. Long-range sensors began scanning every object in the system, while communications specialists prepared first contact protocols in over 200 languages. Admiral Vextana stood on the bridge of her flagship, studying the tactical displays. The mysterious planet Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel, beautiful and deadly at the same time. From this distance, it looked deceptively peaceful. The swirling clouds and sparkling oceans gave no hint of the hostile environment beneath. Admiral, her sensor officer reported. "We are detecting massive energy readings from the planet's surface. Whatever technology they possess, it is operating at levels that exceed our most optimistic projections." "Any signs that they have detected our presence?" the Admiral asked. "Unknown, Admiral. Their electromagnetic emissions are too complex for our computers to decode. They could be routine communications or military alerts. We have no way to tell." "The difference," Admiral Vextana nodded. "Maintain position and continue passive scans. I want to know everything about that planet before we make contact. If these beings are as dangerous as their world suggests, we need every possible advantage." The fleet settled into a long-range observation pattern, their instruments gathering data on every aspect of the Sol system. What they discovered over the following days would challenge everything they thought they knew about planetary engineering, biological adaptation, and the limits of intelligent life. The planet Earth was not just a fortress built by an advanced civilization. It was something far stranger and more terrifying. It was a world where the fortress and its inhabitants had become one, where the line between the living and the artificial had been erased. The beings who lived there had not just adapted to their hostile environment. They had embraced it, becoming as dangerous and unpredictable as the world that had shaped them. As the alien fleet watched and waited, completely unaware that they had been detected the moment they arrived, the stage was set for the most significant first contact in galactic history. Neither side understood what they were about to face, and neither was prepared for the misunderstandings that would follow. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the control room of the International Space Station and stared at the display screen with complete confusion. The massive alien fleet had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. Every telescope on Earth and in orbit was now pointed at the strange collection of ships that hung motionless in space like a threatening cloud. Sarah was the head of the newly formed Department of Xenobiology at the United Nations. Her job was to study alien life forms if humanity ever encountered them. She had spent 15 years preparing for this moment, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this situation. The aliens were here, but they were not making contact. They were just watching and waiting. The fleet consisted of ships unlike anything in human science fiction. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled with internal light. Others were massive metal constructs covered in weapon ports and armor plating. A few appeared to be made of some kind of living tissue that pulsed with organic rhythms. All of them were much larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Dr. Chun," called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. "We are receiving another transmission from Earth Command. They want to know if you have made any progress in establishing contact." Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. "Tell them we are still trying. The aliens are not responding to any of our signals. We have broadcast greetings in every human language. We have sent mathematical sequences and prime numbers. We have even played music. Nothing gets a response." The truth was that Sarah was terrified. The alien ships were clearly military vessels. Their positioning suggested they were ready for battle at any moment. Humanity had been preparing for first contact for decades, but every scenario had assumed the aliens would either be peaceful explorers or would attack immediately. No one had planned for aliens who would just sit and watch. Captain Williams, the commander of the space station, floated over to Sarah's workstation. "Doctor, what do you think they want? Why are they just sitting there?" Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet's formation. "I think they are studying U.S. the same way we are studying them. They want to understand what kind of threat we represent before they make any moves." "Threat?" Captain Williams laughed. "What threat could we possibly represent to ships that size? Our entire space program consists of a few satellites and this space station. They could destroy human civilization without breaking a sweat." Sarah frowned. "That is what worries me. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. The fact that they are being cautious suggests they think we might be dangerous. But why would they think that?" Lieutenant Rodriguez suddenly looked up from his console with excitement. Dr. Chun, I am receiving a new type of signal from the alien fleet. It is not directed at us. It appears to be internal communications between their ships. Can you decode it? Sarah asked. Not the language, but I can analyze the signal patterns. The transmissions are increasing in frequency and intensity. I think they are having some kind of debate or argument. Sarah stared at the display showing the alien fleet. Patch me through to Earth Command? I need to speak with the Secretary General immediately. Within minutes, Sarah was connected to the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. World leaders appeared on screens around the control room, their faces showing the strain of the past 3 days. Dr. Chun, said Secretary General Martinez, what is your assessment of the situation? Mr. Secretary General, I believe the aliens are afraid of us, Sarah replied. Their behavior suggests they view humanity as a potential military threat. I recommend we make a peaceful contact attempt before they decide we are too dangerous. To ignore, President Harrison of the United States shook his head. Doctor, how could they possibly see us as a threat? Look at the size of their ships compared to our technology. Sarah pulled up a comparison chart on her screen. Mr. President, consider this from their perspective. They have traveled across the galaxy to visit our solar system. They must have some reason for coming here. Perhaps they detected our radio signals or observed something about Earth that interested them. She highlighted Earth on the display. Now imagine you are an alien explorer approaching our planet. What would you see? A world covered in massive storms that generate more energy than nuclear weapons. Temperature extremes that would kill most life forms. An atmosphere so reactive it could be used as rocket fuel. Gravity strong enough to crush visitors from lower gravity worlds. Secretary General Martinez leaned forward. But doctor, those are just natural environmental conditions. Surely they would understand that. Would they? Sarah asked. Most planets in the galaxy are probably much more stable than Earth. From their perspective, any species that evolved on such a hostile world must be incredibly tough and adaptable. They might think we are some kind of super soldiers bred for warfare. Prime Minister Chun of China raised her hand. Dr. Chun, what do you recommend we do? Sarah took a deep breath. I think we need to show them we are peaceful, but we need to be careful about how we do it. If they already think we are dangerous, any aggressive moves could trigger an attack. What kind of peaceful gesture would you suggest? Asked President Volkov of Russia. Sarah thought for a moment. Something simple and non-threatening. Maybe we could invite them to visit Earth, show them we are just normal people living normal lives. The world leaders looked at each other with alarm. President Harrison spoke first. Doctor, are you suggesting we invite alien warships to approach our planet? That seems incredibly risky. Mr. President, they are already here, Sarah replied. If they wanted to attack us, they could do it from their current position. The fact that they are maintaining distance suggests they are as nervous about this situation as we are. Secretary General Martinez nodded slowly. Dr. Chun, prepare a message. Make it clear that we are peaceful and would welcome diplomatic contact. But be very careful about how you phrase it. We cannot afford any misunderstandings. Sarah spent the next hour crafting the most important message in human history. She kept it simple and direct, using basic mathematical concepts to demonstrate human intelligence while emphasizing peaceful intentions. The final message was broadcast on all frequencies toward the alien fleet. Dr. Sarah Chun stood before the largest video conference in human history. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled her screen as she prepared to give the most important presentation of her career. The alien fleet had been in the solar system for 2 weeks now, and both sides were slowly learning to communicate through shared scientific data. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, today we will attempt the first face-to-face meeting with an alien species. 3 of their ships have agreed to enter Earth orbit for what they call a cultural exchange demonstration. I need to explain what we have learned about their misconceptions regarding our planet and our species. President Harrison raised his hand. Dr. Chun, you mentioned misconceptions. What exactly do these aliens think about us? Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing Earth from space. Mr. President, the aliens believe that Earth is simultaneously a naturally occurring Deathworld and an artificially constructed weapons platform. They think we have somehow weaponized our entire planet. Secretary General Martinez looked confused. How is that possible? How could they think our planet is artificial? It starts with our rotation, Sarah explained, highlighting Earth's movement. To them, the fact that our planet spins and orbits the sun appears to be evidence of advanced propulsion systems. They calculated that Earth's rotational energy could power their entire civilization for thousands of years. They believe we are using planetary rotation as some kind of massive engine. Prime Minister Chun of China leaned forward. What about our magnetic field? Sarah nodded. They interpret our magnetic field as a planetary defense shield. The fact that it deflects solar radiation and cosmic particles makes them think we built it to protect our planet from energy weapons. They have never seen a natural magnetic field this strong. President Volkov of Russia looked alarmed. Dr. Chun, what do they think of our cities and infrastructure? Sarah changed the display to show satellite images of major cities at night. This is where it gets really concerning. They see our city lights and think they are energy signatures from weapon systems. Our skyscrapers look like defensive towers to them. Our highways and bridges appear to be supply lines for a planetary fortress. What about our weather? Asked the Prime Minister of Canada. Sarah pulled up footage of a recent hurricane. This is perhaps the most frightening part for them. They view our weather systems as evidence that we have weaponized our atmosphere. A typical thunderstorm generates more electrical energy than most of their weapons. Hurricane winds are faster than their fighter aircraft. To them, our weather looks like a planetary defense system. The world leaders sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. Finally, Secretary General Martinez spoke. Dr. Chun, what do they think of us as a species? Sarah's expression grew serious. They believe we are a race of super soldiers who evolved on this weaponized death world. The fact that we can survive in 21% oxygen atmosphere amazes them. Most galactic species require breathing apparatus at oxygen levels above 5%. They think our high oxygen air is like living inside a fuel tank. She continued, with more examples. Our gravity is nearly double what most alien species consider normal. They believe we must have incredible physical strength just to walk around. The temperature variations on our planet would kill most of them within hours, yet we live in these conditions every day. President Harrison shook his head. But surely they understand that these are just natural conditions we adapted to? That is the problem, Mr. President, Sarah replied. Most planets in the galaxy are apparently much more stable than Earth. They have never encountered a species that evolved under such extreme conditions. To them, we must be incredibly tough and aggressive just to survive. Dr. James Mitchell, the head of NASA, joined the conference from Mission Control. Dr. Chun, I have updates from the alien ships entering our orbit. Their scans of our space program have caused quite a stir among their crews. Sarah turned to Dr. Mitchell. What have they discovered? They are particularly interested in the International Space Station, Dr. Mitchell explained. The fact that we built a structure in space apparently confirms their belief that we are expanding our fortress beyond our planet. They see the ISS as the first component of a space-based weapons platform. Prime Minister Johnson of the United Kingdom looked worried. What about our satellites? Dr. Mitchell pulled up a display showing Earth's orbital infrastructure. Our communication and weather satellites look like surveillance and targeting systems to them. Our GPS network appears to be a guidance system for planetary weapons. Even our scientific instruments are being interpreted as military technology. Sarah rubbed her forehead. The situation becomes worse when they examine our history. They have been monitoring our television and radio broadcasts. They think our entertainment shows are historical documentaries about our military campaigns. What do you mean? Asked President Dubois of France. They believe our action movies are records of actual battles, Sarah explained. They think our disaster films are documentation of our planet's natural defense systems in action. Our science fiction shows look like training materials for space warfare. The conference room erupted in worried discussions. Secretary General Martinez called for order. Dr. Chun, what happens when they actually meet us in person? Sarah looked grim. That is what we are about to find out. 3 alien ships will dock with the International Space Station in 6 hours. Small delegations from each ship will come aboard for what they are calling a diplomatic assessment of combat capabilities. Dr. Mitchell added more concerning details. The aliens have requested that we demonstrate our defensive protocols and show them our command structure. They want to meet with our military leaders and see examples of our adaptive combat gear. President Harrison looked confused. Combat gear? What do they mean? Sarah sighed. They want to see our space suits? To them, any equipment that allows us to survive in the vacuum of space must be military armor. They cannot understand that we built spacesuits for exploration, not warfare. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the ISS. Captain Williams appeared on screen. Floating in the station's main compartment, Dr. Chun, we have a problem. The alien ships approaching us are much larger than we expected. Each one is the size of a city. Their docking procedures are unlike anything we have seen. Sarah watched as external cameras showed massive alien vessels carefully maneuvering toward the space station. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. One looked like a living crystal that pulsed with internal light. Another was covered in what appeared to be organic tissue that moved and shifted. The third was a sleek metal construct covered in sensors and communication arrays. Captain Williams, Sarah said, remember that these aliens think you and your crew are elite soldiers stationed on a military outpost. Everything you do will be interpreted through that lens. Try to appear as peaceful and non-threatening as possible. Captain Williams nodded nervously. Understood, Dr. Chun, but how do we act non-threatening when they think our very existence is threatening? Sarah had been dreading this question. Just be yourselves. Show them that humans are normal people with families, hobbies, and peaceful intentions. Maybe if they see us as individuals rather than weapons, they will start to understand the truth. Over the next few hours, the world watched as humanity prepared for its face-to-face meeting with alien beings. The crew of the International Space Station practiced diplomatic greetings and prepared presentations about human culture and society. Scientists on Earth worked frantically to prepare data that might help clear up the misunderstandings. But even as these preparations continued, new problems emerged. The aliens had been scanning Earth's surface with increasingly sophisticated instruments. Their latest report showed they had discovered what they called massive underground installations and continental-scale infrastructure projects, Dr. Sarah Chun realized with growing horror that the aliens had found human cities, subway systems, and underground facilities. To beings who already believed Earth was a weapons platform, these discoveries would only confirm their worst fears. Underground installations looked like bunkers and weapons storage facilities. Subway tunnels appeared to be supply routes for a planetary defense network. The metropolitan areas of major cities, with their complex networks of roads, utilities, and buildings, looked like military command centers to alien eyes. The fact that these installations were located all over the planet suggested a level of military organization that terrified the galactic community. As the first alien delegation prepared to board the International Space Station, both sides remained completely unaware of how badly they misunderstood each other. The aliens were convinced they were about to meet with the military leaders of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The humans believed they were greeting peaceful explorers who would be easily convinced of humanity's good intentions. The stage was set for a cultural exchange that would either bridge the gap between two very different civilizations or confirm the aliens' worst fears about the weaponized Deathworld called Earth in the cargo bay of the space station. Captain Williams and his crew waited nervously as the first extraterrestrial visitors in human history prepared to come aboard. Dr. Sarah Chun watched from Earth as external cameras showed the alien ships extending docking tubes toward the space station. In a few minutes, beings from across the galaxy would meet humans face to face for the first time. She could only hope that this historic encounter would lead to understanding rather than conflict. But as she watched the massive alien vessels maneuvering around Earth's orbit, Sarah could not shake the feeling that humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. The aliens had already made up their minds about what humans were. Changing those minds would require a miracle of diplomacy and communication. The future of human civilization might depend on how well a few astronauts could convince alien warriors that they were not the super soldiers everyone thought they were. It was a task that seemed almost impossible, but it was the only chance. Humanity had to avoid a war with the galaxy's greatest military powers. Captain Williams floated in the docking bay of the International Space Station as the first alien delegation prepared to board. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode from his chest. Through the thick glass window of the airlock, he could see three beings unlike anything in human imagination waiting to enter. The first alien looked like a walking crystal formation that sparkled with internal light. It stood about 2 meters tall and had multiple arm-like appendages that ended in what appeared to be delicate manipulator tools. The second being was covered in what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed as it moved. The third alien was the most disturbing of all. It appeared to be made of some kind of dark energy that barely held a humanoid shape. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth. Captain Williams, remember that these beings think you are an elite military commander. They expect to meet a hardened warrior, not a scientist and explorer. Captain Williams tried to calm his nerves. Dr. Chun, how am I supposed to act like a warrior when I have never been in combat in my life? I became an astronaut to explore space, not to fight wars. Just be confident and respectful, Sarah replied. Show them you are intelligent and capable, but try to demonstrate that humans are peaceful. The airlock finally finished its cycling process, and the inner door opened with a soft hiss. The three alien beings entered the space station with movements that seemed both graceful and cautious. The crystal being spoke first, its voice sounding like musical chimes translated through the universal communicator. I am Ambassador Crystalline Heart of Distant Stars. The being said, I represent the ethereal collective. We come to assess the military capabilities and territorial intentions of the beings who control this weapons platform. Captain Williams blinked in confusion. Weapons platform? Ambassador? This is the International Space Station. It is a scientific research facility, not a weapons platform. The second alien, the one made of living metal, stepped forward. I am Commander Flowing Steel of Battleforge from the Adaptive Alliance. Do not attempt deception, human warrior. Our sensors clearly detect the defensive systems and propulsion capabilities of your orbital fortress. Captain Williams looked around the cramped space station with its scientific equipment and sleeping quarters. Commander, I assure you this is not a fortress. We conduct experiments here. We study the effects of zero gravity on plants and materials. We observe weather patterns on Earth and monitor space for asteroids. The third being, the one made of dark energy, spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am War Shadow that walks between stars of the Void Hunter clans, human. Your deception tactics are noted but ineffective. We have observed your species' survival capabilities on the most hostile world ever discovered. You cannot hide your true nature from us. Captain Williams felt completely lost. My true nature? I am just a scientist. I study biology and physics. Before I became an astronaut, I was a university professor. Ambassador Crystalline Heart tilted its crystalline head. University professor? You mean you are an instructor in military tactics and warfare strategies? No, Captain Williams said. Desperately, I taught students about how plants grow and how animals adapt to their environments. I studied peaceful things. The three aliens exchanged what appeared to be meaningful looks. Commander Flowing Steel spoke next. Human, you claim to study how? Animals adapt to environments. Are you referring to the development of biological weapons and adaptive combat systems? Captain Williams realized that everything he said was being misinterpreted. No, I study how animals evolve over time to survive in different climates and ecosystems. For example, how birds developed hollow bones to fly more efficiently, or how fish evolved gills to breathe underwater. War shadow that walks between stars made a sound like distant thunder. The human speaks of aerial combat adaptations and underwater warfare capabilities. Its knowledge of biological engineering is extensive. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice came through. The communicator again? Captain Williams, try showing them something peaceful. Maybe some of our cultural items or personal belongings. Captain Williams nodded and led the alien delegation to the main living area of the space station. Would you like to see some examples of human culture? I have photographs of my family and some music from Earth. He pulled out a tablet computer and showed them pictures of his wife and 2 children playing in their backyard. This is my family. My wife is a teacher and my children are in school. This picture was taken at our home. Ambassador Crystalline Heart studied the image carefully. Human warrior, these smaller beings appear to be offspring. Are they being trained for combat operations? What? No, they are just playing. Children play games for fun. This picture shows them playing with our dog in our garden. Commander Flowing Steel leaned closer to examine the image. The smaller humans appear to be engaged in tactical training exercises with a domesticated predator species. The garden appears to be a controlled training environment. Captain Williams stared at the aliens in disbelief. They are playing fetch with our pet dog. The garden is where we grow flowers and vegetables for food. War Shadow made another rumbling sound. The human confirms that they maintain agricultural production facilities and domesticated hunting animals at their residential compounds. Their resource management and biological warfare capabilities extend to the family unit level. Dr. Sarah Chun's frustrated voice came through the communicator. Captain, try showing them something completely peaceful. Maybe some music or art. Captain Williams activated a music file on his tablet. The gentle sounds of a classical violin. Concerto filled the space station. This is music. We create it for pleasure and emotional expression. This piece was composed by a human named Mozart over 200 years ago. The 3 aliens listened to the music with what appeared to be growing alarm. Ambassador Crystalline Heart's internal lights flickered rapidly. The acoustic patterns contain complex mathematical frequencies. This appears to be some form of sonic warfare technology or psychological manipulation system. It is just music, Captain Williams pleaded. Humans create music because it makes us feel happy or sad or peaceful. It is art, not a weapon. Commander. Flowing Steel's metallic surface rippled with concern. The human claims these acoustic weapons are designed to manipulate emotional states. Their psychological warfare capabilities are more advanced than our intelligence reports indicated. Captain Williams turned off the music and tried a different approach. Let me show you what we eat. Maybe that will help you understand we are peaceful. He opened a storage compartment and pulled out some of the space station's food supplies. This is freeze-dried ice cream. It is a dessert that astronauts enjoy as a treat. And this is coffee. It is a beverage that helps us stay alert. The aliens examined the food packages with fascination and horror. War Shadow spoke first. The human offers to share its combat rations and stimulant compounds. These appear to be highly processed nutrient supplements designed for extended warfare. Operations. No, 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 Captain Williams said frantically. Ice cream is just a sweet treat. Children eat it at birthday parties. Coffee is just a drink that tastes good and helps people wake up in the morning. Ambassador Crystalline Heart's lights pulsed faster. The human confirms that these substances are distributed to offspring during ceremonial gatherings and are used to enhance combat readiness during dawn operations. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice came through the communicator with a new urgency. Captain Williams, I am reading massive activity from the alien fleet. I think our attempts at peaceful contact are being interpreted as demonstrations of military capability. Captain Williams looked out the window and saw that more alien ships were arriving in Earth orbit. The 3 ships had grown to 30, and more were appearing every hour. Ambassador Crystalline Heart, please understand that we are not trying to threaten you. Everything I have shown you represents peaceful human activities. The ambassador's crystalline form seemed to brighten. Human warrior, your species' casual attitude toward biological adaptation, psychological warfare, resource management, and chemical enhancement is noted. The fact that you present these capabilities as normal civilian activities only confirms our assessment of your species' dangerous nature. Commander Flowing Steel added his own observation. The human's ability to survive in this orbital environment without visible life support equipment demonstrates the enhanced physical capabilities of your species. Your comfort in the vacuum of space confirms that you are adapted for space warfare. Captain Williams looked down at his normal spacesuit and realized that to aliens who could not survive in space at all, any human space technology would look like super advanced military equipment. This is just a spacesuit. It provides air and protection from radiation. Any human would die in space without it. War Shadow made what might have been a laughing sound. The human claims that its environmental protection systems are minimal survival gear. Its species' ability to function in hard vacuum with basic equipment confirms their adaptation to the ultimate battlefield environment. Over the next several hours, every attempt Captain Williams made to demonstrate human peaceful intentions only convinced the aliens that humanity was more dangerous than they had originally believed. When he showed them Earth through the space station's windows, they saw a militarized planet with global defense systems. When he explained human history, they heard accounts of a warrior species that had conquered their entire world. The breakthrough finally came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Park, the climatologist in Antarctica, had been monitoring the alien communications throughout the meeting. She noticed that the aliens kept referring to humans as the species that conquered the Deathworld. "Dr. Chun," Lisa called from the South Pole, "I think I understand the problem. The aliens are not afraid of our weapons or our technology. They are afraid of us. They cannot understand how any species could survive on Earth unless they were incredibly tough and aggressive." Sarah realized that Lisa was right. Captain Williams, stop trying to show them we are peaceful. Instead, show them we are normal. Show them that from our perspective, Earth is not a hostile environment. It is just home. Captain Williams tried a completely different approach. "Ambassador Crystalline Heart, I want to show you something about Earth. To us, this planet is not a death world or a weapons platform. It is simply the world where we evolved. Let me show you a normal day in a human city." He pulled up a live video feed from Times Square in New York City. Thousands of people walked along busy sidewalks, going about their daily activities. Cars moved through streets while children played in nearby parks. "These people are not soldiers," Captain Williams explained. "They are office workers, shopkeepers, students, and families. They are going to work, buying food, and enjoying their lives. This is what normal human activity looks like." The 3 aliens stared at the video in amazement. Commander Flowing Steel spoke first. "These beings are moving freely through the hostile environment without protective gear. They appear to be conducting normal civilian activities in conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes." Ambassador Crystalline Heart's lights flickered with what might have been wonder. The smaller beings accompanying the adults appear to be engaging in recreational activities in the same environment where their parents work. This species treats their death world as a normal habitat. War Shadow made a sound like distant wind. "We have misunderstood the nature of this species. They are not warriors who have weaponized their world. They are survivors who have adapted so completely to their hostile environment that they no longer recognize it as hostile." Captain Williams felt a surge of hope. "Exactly, to us Earth is just home. The storms and temperature changes and high gravity are just normal parts of life. We do not think of them as weapons or defenses. They are just the way our world works." The aliens spent the next hour watching live feeds from around Earth. They saw humans surfing ocean waves, skiing down snow-covered mountains, and hiking through forests. They watched children playing soccer in parks and families having picnics. By lakes, slowly their understanding of humanity began to change. Ambassador Kristallin Hart was the first to speak. We request permission to revise our initial assessment. Your species is not a military threat to galactic civilization. You are simply incredibly adaptable beings who evolved on a world that trained you to survive anything. Commander Flowing Steel. Agreed. Our apologies for the misunderstanding. We have never encountered a species that thrived on such a challenging world. Your casual attitude toward conditions that would defeat our greatest warriors is not aggression. It is simply your natural state, War Shadow added the final observation. Earth will remain classified as both a Class 115 Deathworld and a mobile fortress, but these classifications now have new meaning. It is a Deathworld inhabited by beings so adaptable they have made it home. It is a fortress not because it was built as one, but because it trained its inhabitants to be unconquerable. Dr. Sarah Chun smiled as she listened from Earth. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. I have a feeling our reputation is going to make us very popular for jobs that other species consider impossible. Captain Williams looked out at Earth and then at his new alien friends. Would you like to visit our planet? I think there are a lot of humans who would enjoy meeting you. Just remember to bring environmental protection suits. Our world might be home to us, but it is still pretty dangerous for visitors. The three aliens accepted the invitation, and the first cultural exchange between humanity and galactic civilization began. It would be the start of a friendship that would change both species forever.